I just got back from our cycling trip from Newcastle to Edinburgh, that we did over 4 days. And I'm feeling quite tired. It was 200 miles in total. We did about 50 miles the first day from Newcastle to Alnmouth in the sunshine, pretty much all day along the coast. And then the second day we went from Alnmouth to Berwick upon Tweed, another 50 miles or so along the coast. It was a bit rainy on the second day, which made it harder, but the bits where it was sunny when we were walking along the coast, we had to push at some of the sections because the cycle path wasn't really fit for cycling on, but it was beautiful looking at the sea. And then on the third day we went from Berwick upon Tweed to Innerleithen inland, and that was a long day. It was around 60 miles, and we got a bit lost at the beginning, so we ended up pulling our bikes and carrying our bikes to a field, and there was quite a lot of climbing hills that day, but it was sunny, so that made it alright. And the last section was really beautiful through the rolling countryside. And on the last day, today, it was a bit shorter, 40 miles or so, climbing up a big steep hill at the beginning, well, gradual. And when we got to the top, came all the way down into Edinburgh. It was sunny again, cold, really cold on top of the hill, but bright and beautiful. And we stayed in some nice places. We stayed in a couple of B&Bs, which was really nice. And the nice thing about cycling is the way it changes my relationship to food. Like, food becomes this kind of absolutely necessary and wonderful thing where you just need a break because you need to get warm, so you're going into a cafe, and then because you're in the countryside everything's cheaper, and then you can just eat as much as you like, and everything tastes amazing, and it's like this kind of necessary life-giving substance and process of eating. And I really enjoy that about cycling longer distances. But I don't know why else I enjoy it. I enjoy just making my way across land off my own steam. There's something quite simple about it. And the views and seeing parts of the countryside that you perhaps wouldn't notice by car, being able to stop and have a look around places. I was wondering how much it was about, kind of achievement, being able to say that you've done like so much miles. It's a kind of, well, not just being able to say that you've done it, but a kind of feeling of achievement, that you kind of set yourself this amount of distance that you're going to travel across, and then you have to kind of use your strengths to manage that. And I suppose I was thinking about that particularly because on the longer day when we cycled around 60 miles, and because we were running a little bit late, we didn't really have time for a proper break in the afternoon, and that made it really hard. Physically, for the last 10 miles I was really feeling tired and cold and struggling a bit, and then feeling a bit almost delirious, but kind of knowing that physical pain kind of brings a bigger payoff when you arrive, and then you enjoy the cup of tea so much more and you enjoy getting warm. But then it's funny because it's like you have to go through that pain to have that greater enjoyment, to get back to square one again, to feeling normal again. And it's the same with the sections that were in the rain. It's like really, and the rain's coming in your face and you're on this road and it's kind of really hard and you can't remember, and your waterproof jacket's in your bag and you haven't put it on yet, but you don't want to stop and get it out because it's a faff, and then you get more wet, you just want to keep going. But there's something about that kind of endurance that makes the ending even more satisfying, or having done it even more satisfying. Which is weird. It's like you want to go through this kind of... You choose to put yourself through this physical, not always pain, but kind of challenge. To get some kind of... I mean, when you're cycling, you also have all these chemicals, I guess, the body's natural endorphins because of the exercise that feels really good. And it's good to get that from just a kind of physical activity that doesn't involve thinking. I think that's what I really often like about these trips, is it's just you're not really thinking too much about stuff, you're just going and your body feels good and tired, but in a good way, and you're kind of getting this job done, but it doesn't involve... And you're just kind of looking around at the country as you pass it by, and you're kind of managing this achievement without having to worry too much about things other than getting to the place before it gets dark and making sure you're going the right way. And it's a really like satisfying thing, I guess, just one thing after the next. And the relaxation afterwards, maybe particularly because I'm working full time, that kind of time off is like a real time out. You just stop thinking about life and you're just there pedalling away. I took some photos as well on the way, but it's difficult. I just find it difficult to know what to take photos of. I never take many. I just took about 5 or 6 over the whole 4 days, and so this one is us starting out in Newcastle. It was just at the very beginning we'd got off the train, and actually, the reason why I took this photo is because I wanted to start this app I've got on my phone that works with GPS, and it counts the mileage and your speed as you go along. And I wanted to start it because we just started the ride. But it's funny because the app doesn't always, like sometimes I'd forget to start it again and we'd have sections of the route missing. And so that was a bit disappointing sometimes. Like you want all the miles recorded on this thing so you can kind of remember, or you can kind of prove you did this long journey. But yeah, this is us starting out in the sunshine. And it was a good feeling then, because we were cycling out of Newcastle along the river and it was very relaxed and it was an exciting way to start. What else? I also took a photo of... this photo is just out of Newcastle along the coast, and we just stopped to eat a bagel, which was really tasty. It had rocket in it and cheese, and it was part of the supplies we'd packed with us. And we've probably done only about 10 miles at this point. And it was quite windy, so it was a bit cold, but we still had that kind of excited feeling of starting out. And you've put an orange on his head, which made me smile. You see, when we're on trips, and I don't really like just taking photos of the landscape because I don't really have a really good camera, and I'm just aware that, you know, there's a million photos online of these landscapes way better than my camera can take them. So, but I want to kind of record something, so I end up taking quite a few photos of us, like pointing the camera at us. But I also I'm aware there's so many of these kind of photos around where it's pointing the camera and I don't know. So I end up putting all these stupid faces, and here it's a bit much. Feels a bit try hard. But I still like the way our faces are lit off the flash. And our cheeks are quite red. The beach is behind us. So here's another one, a bit of a nicer picture. You can see more of the beach. We just crossed the bridge by this point, and we were pushing our bikes because it was getting the coastal path was getting a bit rough. Again, this is just still the first day. And yeah, quite cold, you can see by all our hats and scarves. And then I didn't take any in the third day. I don't know why not. I think it was because it was long, and we didn't stop so much. I wasn't really thinking about photos. So this is on the final day, and we just got to the top of this hill that we've just climbed. We've done about 10 miles gradual climbing, but it didn't feel too bad. And this picture looks dramatic because it looks like there was loads of snow, but actually this was the only point where there was loads of snow up the sides, because it was right at the top, I guess, so it was cold, so it wasn't melting. And we took another photo on top. Again, another one of these pointing the camera at us, because I didn't want to just take a picture of the landscape. But I like this picture. Yev was blowing his nose because he had a bit of a runny nose for the trip. And it was cold. It was really cold there because it was really windy and we were high up. And although there was this nice downhill as a kind of reward for this climbing we'd been doing, it was really so windy when we were going down that we had to kind of pedal into the wind to get down this hill. And it was alright, it was fine, but it's a bit like, you know, you have this kind of image of what this activity is going to be, and you're going to know that you're going to climb your way up, and then when you come down you're going to be able to just freely cycle down. You're just going to roll all the way down, and it's not going to be hard work anymore. It's going to be beautiful sunshine, you're going to look at the view, but in actual fact, you know, you're pedaling against the wind and your hands are freezing, and you can't look at the view because your eyes are watering because of the wind, and you kind of have these tears that are coming down your face. And it's not like it's so bad. It's not like it's not enjoyable, but it's not this thing, you know, this kind of image that you have in your head of what this kind of holiday is going to be. There's all these kind of things about, you know, that you can't get your stuff out. Every time you want to get your stuff out of your bag, you've got to stop, and then you've got to open it, and then your bike falls over, and that's why I didn't take many photos, you know, because you know, it's such a hassle to get my camera out all the time. When we were staying in the first night in Alnmouth, we went to a pub for some food, and we sat at a table next to a tank with a terrapin inside it. And it was a really small tank, and the terrapin was really active. And we just looked at it for ages. Like, we were so tired from the cycling, and we just looked at the terrapin. And I was just going back and forwards in this little tank. It was hardly much bigger than its body itself. And sometimes when I was cycling over the next couple of days, I'd think about that terrapin in the tank, you know, going back and forwards, just backwards and forwards, just moving around. the bed and breakfast owner where we were staying just said they really liked having sea life around the pub, so they just kept it in that little tank. But it's difficult to say whether it's happy or not, or whether it really wants to get out. It looks like it wants to get out, but it's difficult to say, isn't it? It's difficult to say what it wants. Maybe it also just gets the satisfaction of doing this kind of repetitive moving action, a bit like our cycling. I don't know if I would get the same amount of satisfaction if I just had to cycle backwards and forwards in a yard, maybe, with a glass, and then there'd be people moving around, I guess, things to see outside, so there would be some element of change, but just cycling so the same distance, maybe from Newcastle to Edinburgh, just backwards and forwards, maybe it will be okay, I don't know. I don't know about that. This one is, I asked Yev to take a picture of me in a cafe we went into in Dalkeith, because I really liked the cafe. It was a kind of diner style. It was in the middle of this square and it was raised a level, and then all the windows were from the ceiling to the floor. So it had this kind of, I don't know, like modernist feel to it, but then it was kind of really cozy, and there were lots of older people in there eating cakes. I should have really taken a photo of Yev, because behind him, with the camera pointing the other way, you could see all the booths lined up. And we had milkshakes and apple pie, and there were lots of people around. It was really full and bustling, and the people around it didn't sound Scottish or British. I think maybe they were Italian. There was a nice bustling atmosphere there, and it sounded like this. And at one point there was a really nice, loud kind of cackle laugh. I think it's coming up. Yeah, it was nice, and we were almost home at that point as well, so we had that kind of really good, satisfied feeling, and we only had about 12 miles till we arrived home. But I'm always a bit disappointed by the photos, which is perhaps why I don't take so many. Just can't quite find what the interesting thing to photograph is. I know it's not the obvious views that, unless you have a really nice camera and you shoot, I don't know, in a really interesting way, it just looks like any other view, and all the colours are kind of just go into this kind of grey blue as it goes into the distance, and you get that kind of blue sky. It's not that, and it's also not just, I don't know, pictures of us in places. Maybe that's better. I guess it's trying to find the things that are really important about a trip. Like on the second day we found a lamb that had got separated from the rest of I guess it's Mum. There were no sheep around. We were walking along the coastal path and we just saw this little lamb with a black head sitting just off the path, and it was just bleating and it was on its own, and we went over to it. We didn't get too close, but we were trying to get it to follow us, or I don't know, we didn't really know what to do. It looked so defenceless just sitting there. So in the end we went off and left it and went and found the farmer and told him about the lamb and where it was, so that he could go and find it. And, you know, we could have photographed the lamb, you know, that would have been probably a good memento of, you know, a story that happened on that day that was particular to us. But felt a bit weird, you know, like looking at this lamb and this defenceless lamb in the middle of this kind of field on its own, sitting there kind of cold, taking a picture of it. But I don't know what else we would have taken the picture of. The farmer, once we told him, but I don't think he would have, I don't know how he would have felt of that. So there's no photos of that, obviously. But that's something particular to our trip that, you know, would have been, which I remember. Oh, I did take a picture of a fix that we did on my bike after I lost a bolt just after we'd started riding actually out of Newcastle just after this first photo was taken, and we lost the bolt that attaches my pannier rack and mudguard to the frame. It must have just come out, so we fixed it with a key ring and some dental floss, and I took a picture of that, and that was good. That was satisfying because fixing that with just the things we had, and we managed it really quickly, and it was holding really well. The keyring worked really well, and the reinforcement with the dental floss. So that was a nice thing to have a photo of. Yeah, it's finding those things. I don't know. I think it's not so easy. But yeah, it was a nice trip. It was a really nice trip, and pretty exhausted. I think I'm gonna go have a shower now.